Hi, this is Victor Devon, and you're listening to We Burlesque, the podcast. I'm very excited to announce that in celebration of White Elephant Burlesque's 14th anniversary, that we are having a digital video show for you to download and watch, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And in conjunction with We Burlesque, the podcast, I will be live streaming it on October 2nd, and if you want to come in and join it, you're welcome to. All you got to do is go to weburlesque.com, click on the 14th anniversary poster, and buy a ticket. It's $20. You're going to see 15 performances, which, frankly, the value, just simply the value. And if you have the opportunity, you can watch it with me on that Friday, or if you can watch it on Saturday or Sunday, you are absolutely welcome to download it and watch it on your own time, or again and again and again, because, you know, we must do what we can on this internet world. It's going to be a great, great show. I have Regina Stargazer, Petra Fried, Holly Ween, Dick Jones, Lucky Charming, C.D. Edie, Broody Valentino, Lou Alfred Douglas, Falana Fox, Ellie Favola, Lilith Lore, Rocco Chanel, Esmeralda May, Jack Barrow, and me. It's going to be great. And you're also going to see a lot of familiar faces wishing some happy birthdays and anniversaries that are going to pop up throughout as well. It's great. It's a lot of fun. And I can't wait for you to see it. Please go to weburlesque.com and click on the poster, buy $20 ticket, watch it anytime that weekend or thereafter, and enjoy the show. Thank you. Hey, so this conversation is with Seraphina Wilder, and it took place immediately after we had our session for We Burlesque, the Ghost Stories offshoot. So if you want to get a little bit more context, please listen to that one. I believe it is episode 2, so you can enjoy that along with the other stories that are in that episode. But we dive right in after that, so if you need a little context, start with that. Thanks.
Sure.
Cool. We'll go right into it then. Right, let's go.
Okay. Yeah, I hope that's a good story for you. I've always thought it was
no,
weird.
absolutely. I've done about 8 of these so far with people, and most of them are indoors and very specific to like locate. This is my first like outdoor woods area one, so it's a good starter one.
Yeah, the woods. I'm not afraid of the woods, but this was the first time I was actually legitimately afraid. Like, because I didn't know, like, I felt endangered, but there was no one else there. So that's how I was like, yeah, there's some weird going on. Because I normally, like, I always walk off by myself. So, you know.
Very cool. We'll dive right in. This is We Burlesque, the podcast. My name, let's try that again. I was going to say my host is. This is We Burlesque, the podcast. I am your host, Victor Devon, and it is a bright, sunny day here in California, Southern California specifically. It is August 30th, and I am too close and yet too far away from a dear friend who's in Los Angeles. I have Seraphina Wilder here. Hello. Hi. We actually just finished talking about your spiritual ghost story, which will be on the podcast sometime on a Wednesday. It's a new autumnal feature for the podcast. So Thank you for being one of the first ones to talk.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So we met at the Hollywood Burlesque Festival.
That we did.
And that was, unfortunately, I mean, COVID screwed up a lot of stuff, but one of those things is it didn't screw up that festival happening this year because it's every 2 years. So hopefully we'll be able to reconvene again next year.
Hopefully.
How have you been doing during all this? Because you're in the proper Los Angeles area. Are you downtown?
I'm towards like the Pasadena area. So I'm kind of like not in LA proper, but I feel like it's a part of LA, and I was born in LA. So I feel very kindred to LA.
How is it? How has it been, either situationally or the community? How have they been handling the quarantine aspects and all the months in between?
You know, I think when it first started, the quarantine stuff, I had just I had just went to Washington and I came back and I was like, crap, now I got to quarantine. I wasn't too afraid at first because I figured everybody was going to get on board and do it. And it wouldn't be like, 9 months later.
I know.
And I was just like, oh, okay. So a side note, when I was younger, I was fascinated by Y2K. Like I was super into it. I was like, oh my God, all the computers are going to turn off. And I was like, I was prepared and then nothing ever happened. I was like, well, that's a bummer. Like I was kind of bummed. But in hindsight, nothing happened because there was a bunch of scientists and people working to make sure that nothing happened.
Yes.
And I guess that's fortunate. So when this came around, I was like, oh no, this is really doomsday. Like I willed it into existence. And
20 years later.
20 years later, right? Like it caught up to me. So I was like, time to get groceries and time to like make plans because I figured it was going to be like a month. I didn't think it was going to be stretched out so long. So the first month was really easy because I'm quite introverted sometimes and I like to be by myself. But then afterwards, I was like, oh, I think it was like April, towards the end of April, when I realized that it wasn't going to be normal anymore because I was seeing the news and I was seeing how people were responding to things. And I'm like, oof. Sometimes all you can say is oof. And I was like, okay, we're in it for the long haul. That's what this is like. So there were definitely moments when I felt like I was losing my mind because I hadn't gone outside and seen anybody. But I was keeping in contact with friends and also doom scrolling a lot and probably harassing them with that. Like, oh my God, did you hear you could get it from this and da-da-da-da-da. And so it's been very trying emotionally. And I think we're all like really just taxed from the constant news because I felt like we all went into quarantine and then there was social unrest. And I remember telling my mom, COVID blew a lead to racism. Like racism came in during the third quarter and hijacked the game.
It was a bubbling pot of so many irritants. Like eventually it just... Yeah.
And then it like, the cup runneth over of stuff that you don't want. So I was like, oh, okay, we're all stuck in our house and like ready to snap. So, I mean, luckily I've had a lot of close friends and people to talk to, and that's just been very helpful. And I had to take a new approach to my mental health because at one point I was like, yeah, this is not going to be good for me if I continue on the path I am, which was doom scrolling when I got up and doom scrolling when I went to bed. But I also think that I kind of had a glow up during quarantine. I don't know if this happened to anybody else, but I got like hotter. And I was telling my friends, I was like, this is so homophobic, honestly, because I was like, how dare I get like hot during quarantine? I can't go anywhere. Like,
no one can see it. Oh.
And no one can see it. Like when you're a burlesque performer, you do kind of like having attention and stuff like that. So I think a lot of us were dealing with that too, having our modes of expression taken away from us from an indefinite part of time. It kind of feels like a breakup in a way, like, oh no. But I started doing virtual shows, so that's been helpful a little bit, but nothing is the same as being on stage. So
Yeah, absolutely. It just feels very distant and in a way, like I know for a lot of it's sort of, I know a lot of us do like social justice work and political statements, and being visibly queer on stage is inherently political statement, and even if it's like a fun flirty act, but it almost feels like extra frivolous when it's just us in a room to a screen, and it's rough. But how have the virtual shows been for you?
The virtual shows have been, I feel like that they're their own thing in a way. Because when I first started doing them, I noticed that people were trying to recreate what we saw on stage. And I think quickly we realized that you cannot reproduce that on camera the way you want to reproduce it. So I approached it as, okay, I know it's not a stage. What else can I do with this format? And it's been really, I guess, productive for me because it's, pushing me to be more creative with burlesque. and to explore different ways of presenting it. So I've taken it very much to like, all right, this is the challenge accepted, and just really getting to stretch, I guess, my creative muscle into doing new things that I wouldn't be able to do on stage. Like I get control of the lighting, like how I want it to start. And it's like making a little music video, and I'm obsessed with music videos. So that's been cool. But I've noticed that some people, I think, I kind of want to be like, you got to let it go, where it's not the same thing as the stage. You gotta let that go.
Well, let's jump back then. What was your first couple? I know you don't recall exactly when you started, but what was the vibe like when you first began burlesque? Were you a dancer first? Were you a theater person?
I came to burlesque like in a roundabout way. Like I had performed in gay nightclubs, like during talent shows. I did like Rocky, where I did like the Trixie for once. Like I think I did Trixie like twice probably. And then like I did burlesque in fetish clubs, which is always funny because, you're getting up there in your little coy act, and then they're like, oh, she's just not going to take all her clothes off.
Yeah.
and then you have someone afterwards getting, impact play. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, thanks for that cute little, number. So, after I started doing them in fetish clubs, I was like, well, I want to branch out and actually go to like where the community is. And I had to look it up myself. I didn't take any classes. So I was kind of like a loner when I first got into burlesque. And a lot of it was trial by fire. Like I learned a lot of things trial by fire. I think my first show was actually Peep Show Menagerie with Chris Beyond, and at the time Scarlet Letter. And they were really helpful getting me started, as well as Trip Tease in Santa Monica and Lily Von Stoop with Monday Night Tease. And I was performing in those shows and just doing odd shows here and there. But it was slow momentum, I think, because I was new, and there was just, I don't know if anyone knew what to do with me just yet. I was very awkward the first year of burlesque. Like I knew what I was doing on stage, but I didn't know what I was doing on stage, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I think because it's also, at a certain point, you also have to be aware beyond yourself of like your intention on stage, but then also how it reads per se as well. Yeah, that can take some time. Yeah. It took the first like 2 years of me seeing photography of our shows to realize that when I do silk fans, my mouth is open like a codfish. Like I had to have that documented to know.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like if there are any baby burlesquers listening to this, your first year is going to be awkward. Just accept that and do it and deal with it. The first year I was really struggling to figure out where I was, like what kind of burlesque I was going to do. Like, was I going to do nerdlesque? Was I going to do neo or classic? And they all appealed to me, but I also didn't really see like a path for me in my first year because there wasn't anyone that I was modeling myself after. Like, I didn't want to be like Dita Von Teese or, whomever. I was like, I just kind of want to do it my own way. And when you're doing things your own way, it's kind of like, well, then there's no instructions. You got to figure it out on your own. So it was very interesting. But luckily, I was able to make a lot of friends and connect with people that were like, hey, you're doing this. I see you're trying to do that. This is another way you could do that. And then I started getting into volunteering for festivals and taking like one-on-one classes. And they really helped me grow as a performer and figure out what I was doing. But it took a second for me to figure out what I was doing.
What was your initial style interest? Like, what were your references?
My initial references when I was doing burlesque, I was like, I had watched a lot of classic burlesque from the 50s. I mean, like I do love Betty Page and stuff like that. My references have always been non-burlesque related. So sure. I would see something like in a magazine or a music video and be like, ooh, I wonder if there's a way to like do that in a burlesque type of way. And sometimes that works and sometimes it does not work. But yeah, that was usually my frame of reference. I'm like really inspired by like couture, like runway stuff and the way fashion models walk. So I kind of really was like, I wonder if I could like incorporate like a runway walk into like a strut and peel kind of thing.
What were some of the music that you would incorporate? And is that the same? And do you think that you've maybe changed over the years with that, or?
I think over the years, stylistically, I have not changed. I've just refined it because it was all over the place the first year, right? And then as I've gotten older and more comfortable with myself and being on stage, it's become this really refined process where I know what works for me and I know what doesn't work for me. But as far as music, I really grab it from all over the place. Like, I've danced to like really weird electronic music, very pop music, but I still have not been able to do a traditional classic piece of burlesque music. I feel like such a a bonehead for that, but like I don't have feather fans and I do not have an act to the stripper or the pink pussycat theme. I don't have an act for that.
I mean, that exists. You can get other people to do all that.
Yeah, I just feel like I don't like when I see it. I see other people do it so well, and I'm like, you know what? They did such a great job of that. We don't need two of them. Mm-hmm. It's like, I kind of feel like that's the great thing about burlesque is that there's this variety, and so to keep that variety, I like to, stay with what I do best. Yeah.
So where were some of the places that you've been able to travel to that have been either the most exciting or the most gratifying for as a burlesquer? Because you make your treks.
I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, I was like, I've traveled quite extensively. I've gone to the New York Nerdlesque Festival. And that was amazing, actually, because Lefty Lucy is a great person and a great performer. And that whole experience, that was my first festival as a solo performer, because I had done troupe stuff with Victory Variety Hour by Penny Starr Jr., and we did the Hollywood Burlesque Festival. Mm-hmm. But this was my first outing as a solo performer, and I was like, I can't hide behind anyone. This is me. So the New York Nerdlesque Festival was really gratifying because I was doing an act that I love, which is my Melina act. And
from Mortal Kombat.
Yes. And she's one of my favorite characters ever. And I was able to perform that and to have the recognition for that act is just also, really awesome. And to explore New York, because I had never been, I'd always wanted to go. So it was really cool to be going to New York to perform. Mm-hmm. And at Webster Hall of all places, and
yes,
to feel the vibe of the city and just be there. So it was really great. New York was awesome. I've also been to I've performed in the Midwest, Kansas City and St. Joseph. And the funny thing about St. Joseph was they allow smoking in their bars.
Oh God, yeah.
I did
Pittsburgh
not know
does that, and it's too much for me sometimes.
Oh my God, I did not know that. So yeah. I brought this costume that had a lot of marabou trim.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, you already know where this is going.
I know where this is going, but go ahead.
Yeah, and this was early in my career, and I didn't know that there was smoking allowed. I do my act. People love it. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's great. I get home and I'm like, oh my God, my costume reeks of cigarette smoke and I can't clean it because of the marabou. It was awful. I had to retire that act because there was just no way to salvage the costume. But it happens. I've also been to New Orleans, mm-hmm. And that was really cool. I got to perform with Zena Zeitgeist and do her show down there. And that was really cool because New Orleans is great. I love that you could drink out in public. That's
it's a plus.
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to, perform in a lot of places in Seattle and things like that. And Vegas. So yeah, it's taken me a couple good places. So, and I love
I mean,
it.
in terms of the different stages and the different backstages, and I mean, we talked a little bit beforehand that we're obviously missing that because of COVID and all that, and we don't have that access. What are some of the things that you've been able to do beyond burlesque that have helped keep you sane or interested or creative during all this time? Have you been able to channel something else?
I've taken more of a keen interest, I guess, in doing like keeping my Instagram updated. Before COVID, I would post maybe once every week, twice every 2 weeks if you were lucky. I was really bad at it. I just could not keep Instagram up to date. And I would just, be like, I got to post something because, we got to have our presence. And since COVID, since I have nothing else to do, I've had a lot of time to take pictures. So
you got to document the glow up.
Yeah, to document the glow up and to post thirst traps, I'm taking my cue from Matt Finish, who's been like...
the master.
Yeah, he's so good with his Instagram. It's just like chef's kiss, but I've been really creative with taking new photos and learning new tricks for that, and really just upping the visual stuff, as well as doing a lot more DJing this year that I've done previously. Yeah, I DJ on the side.
Okay. What type of music?
Everything. That's the funny part. People ask me this all the time, and I'm like, you never know what you're gonna get from my sets. I might start off like, you might hear a Depeche Mode song at the beginning of the set. You might hear some Roy Orbison. It's all over the place. And I try to find a way to work it in because I feel like people do like a variety of music. They just have to be presented with a variety of music. So
where are you doing it?
I've done some for BurlyCon, a couple of queer spaces. I just did the VHOF thing, and that was fun. And I have my own show that I'm doing with Pucks Aplenty from Seattle. It is a queer night. It's called Pure Simulation. And so it's kind of like a nightclub, except virtually. Mm-hmm. And we have 2 burlesque performers. And I just play whatever I want to play. Mm-hmm. So it's all over the board.
What are you doing this via Twitch or what system?
Via Zoom.
Okay.
Via Zoom, so we can keep tabs on people. It's been great.
And do they just watch you? Do you have like the turntables and everything, or are you?
So the thing is, I don't like having a lot of equipment because I'm bad with technology. Something has to be really simple for me to do it because I don't read instruction manuals. I don't. I'm sorry. Like I recently bought a tripod, and most people would be like, let's read the instructions so we can figure out how to set it up. Not Seraphina. I'm like, well, I think it goes this way. And then, 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, okay, I set this up wrong. And I go on YouTube. I'm like, how do you set this up? It could have all been avoided if I just read the instructions. So the same thing applies with DJing. It would probably be prudent if I actually just learn technical things, but I do everything very intuitively. So my turntables actually have a virtual DJ thing on my laptop, which is really easy for me because a lot of my music is there, and I don't have to lug around my vinyl, even though I do have it. I don't have to lug around vinyl and CDs and deal with that. The only problem is you don't have the ease of working with your hands the way you would with turntables, because I've worked with turntables before. But when you have it on your laptop, it's like, all right, I got to be really careful about...
And segue.
Yeah, it can be, but I found that it's actually really helpful with Zoom and virtual events because no offense to people that have turntables, but for me, I've watched some of the sets and I'm like, they're just going to sit there with their turntables, all right? And they do. And I can't really blame them because it's like you're a DJ. You're not there to be entertaining. The music is the entertainment. But I think you kind of have to take that in consideration for virtual events that people are like, I guess I'm just gonna watch you do that for like an hour.
Well, how do you incorporate a visual while you're doing that? What are you doing during it?
So for pure simulation, I have like visuals in the background. So the audience does see me, but they also see like visuals that I might have queued up on like a screen or a projector. And I often I like to get the audience hyped up when I DJ'd at BurleyCon. I was dancing like on stage while I was DJing. It was like really hard because I would be like, oh wait.
DJ go-go at the same time.
Yes, and I think people really like that because they're like, oh, the DJ, because like how many events have you gone to, right, with the DJ? And they look like they can't be bothered, right? Like,
yes,
don't approach the decks unless you have like a great request or something. So, I'm pretty sure there's some DJ who's going to hear this and be like, I hate her.
I mean, I find it's probably one of those that does have like a lot of snobbery attached to it because it's so tech-based and it is so, and it's music, and music is so, besides it bringing the people together, it also can divide the hell out of people. So
people get really personal about music. They're like, how dare you not like my favorite band? I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, people get really personal about it, and you're right about the technical aspect. And I also think it has a lot to do with that it's a really cis heterosexual male dominated field. Like, I don't run into a lot of femme DJs, period. No. I just don't run into them. And
certainly not people of color. A lot, I think even like Tracy Young, the Blessed Madonna, like these are white women.
Yeah, you don't see, and even within like people of color and our communities, there's still not very many femme DJs. Like there's just not many of us. And I think that has a lot to do with access to the resources to get a turntable. They're not cheap sometimes. And like, who's going to give you the opportunity to play? Like, it could be really discouraging if you're just starting out too, because it's like you have to have a job to get a job.
Experience to get experience. Yeah.
Experience to get experience. So yeah, sometimes it can be frustrating, but I've been very fortunate this quarantine that people have been like, I want to go with Seraphina. I'm like, yes. But I love doing it. I worked in a record store for about, I want to say 5 years. And in that 5 years, I learned so much about music. I was already a little music nerd before. That just made me like the worst, though. I was like, like, I remember a guy came in and he was like this really arrogant kind of snob. And he had this girlfriend, and they both had tattoos everywhere of punk bands, which is cool, but he was always so disrespectful to her. So one day he comes in and I think I'm playing a Goldfrapp song, and he's like, well, this is a Prince song. And I'm like, it's not a Prince song. He's like, I know Prince when I hear it, and this is a Prince song. I'm like, it's not a Prince song, and I can show you that it's not a Prince song. So he's like arguing with me about it, and I was like, I don't know why you're arguing with me about it when I have the CD. It's like playing. Yeah. So like, it was just weird. Like, I've definitely met a lot of men like that who really don't appreciate if you know about music the way they know about music.
Yes. Unless you're like a manic pixie dream girl who will change their life with the perfect song. Then perhaps. Otherwise, they need to be the ones who know.
Yeah, they have to tell you about the album you're listening to.
You've never really listened to it before.
Yeah, you didn't hear all that quick panning the way I heard it. You didn't pick up on that. I watched High Fidelity over the summer on Hulu, and I was like, oh my God, this is my life, and I feel very attacked. So if you watch High Fidelity, that is a really good indication of what I was like in my early 20s. I was very much a music nerd. I had some snobby tendencies. They have been stumped out. I've grown, but I definitely was one of those people that was like, oh, that's your favorite band? And it's just like I remember I ruined so many first dates because of that.
I mean, I think you can learn something about them. That you can still use it as a way of interpreting, but at a certain point, like, and I think maybe it's age or dealing with like so many real. Just eventually, like, just enjoy what you enjoy. Please, just. Yeah. I just want you to be happy. Like, I don't want it to, but and to that end, I don't want it to hurt anybody else. But like, if just enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah, I think it's because at the end of the day, music nerds are nerds that don't want to be nerds.
They're too cool to be nerds, right?
They're too cool to be nerds.
Yeah. Bananarama? Okay, all right.
A band?
Yeah.
Yes. As a pastor's kid growing up in the 90s, there was a lot of mainstream entertainment that I was sheltered from.
Stephen Root, he does one of the voices.
Okay.
You know him from News Radio.
Do I?
You know him from Office Space.
Do I?
You know...
Most things, really. So, now that I am an independent and out queer 30-something, I'm finally asking my friends to teach me about all the stuff I missed out on. Wait, Raffi did Beatles covers?
Yes, he did.
My mind is blown.
He did Octopus's Garden. And,
Yeah, I remember Octopus's Garden. No. I didn't know that wasn't a Raffi original until just now. The Re-Education of Hazel Tart. Subscribe now.
Kevin Costner. He was so foxy.
I know the name, I don't know the face. I cannot... What is Kevin Costner? Can you just show me a picture of Kevin Costner's face, please?
Think of the guy,
this is hurting
not Cheech Marin, but think of the other guy in Tin Cup.
I've never seen that.
Do you like movies?
Any movies. Old movies, new movies.
Bad movies.
Sad movies.
I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Rachel Corky Shank.
And together we host Screen Snark, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers.
It's a podcast dedicated to the movies that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts.
Featuring guests of a wide selection of entertainment backgrounds, performers, writers, creatives.
So please join us for the casual cinema conversation every other Monday wherever you get your podcasts.
And follow us on Twitter at screen_snark, and we'll see you at the movies. All right, we're supposed to do that bit together.
That's cool.
Hey, this is Victor, and I want to give a special shout out to the Patreon supporters: Joyce, Andrea, Alex, Bo Bridges, Amy, Dollbody, Princess Chris, Ruthless Retribution, Drew, Kelly Blue, Stormageddon, and Rob. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you would like to be one of those fabulous people that are supporting the pod and all my adventures, please go to patreon.com/weburlesque. Thank you. another fandom that is very pretentious or very contentious would be the nerdlesque and cosplay and folks who like a lot of different nerdy things because and as someone who does nerdlesque, do you find that you're looked at? I mean, you're probably surrounded by a lot of really nice people, but do you see that you are responded to that, oh, well, that costume doesn't quite match issue number 4 or something like that?
You know, that has happened to me before, and I've been to Comic-Con a couple times. So, yeah, I've definitely, because I also do cosplay also on the side, and I remember some guy came up to me after, like, some show I did, and he kind of wrapped his compliment in it was like a backhanded compliment, right? And he was like, oh, I really liked your act, da-da-da-da-da, but I don't think that costume is, like, accurate. And I remember, like, because I already had a drink in me and it's like the filter was gone, I was like, well, if you want to see that character, you could always just watch the TV show.
I mean, this is true.
I felt bad because I was, like, being really snippy about it, but I told him, I was like, you're coming to a live show, and, like, I do understand people who have screen accurate costumes, and I think there's a place for that. Sure. But I also think there's a place for people to be like, you know, I kind of feel like if this character were stripping on stage, they would do this with their costume. Yeah.
And like, you're like, the dimensions aren't going to be the same. You're exactly. Also like, the whole situation is different.
Hey, I was like, I did an Emma Frost act, and I'm like, I'm not a white lady, like you know, like
bare minimum. That was already
yeah, you know, like I can't turn into Diamond, so we're already like leagues away from accuracy.
Right. Well, and then also like the versions of somebody was posting. Maggie McMuffin was posting on one of the burlesque groups, and she asked what nerdlesque characters people had in common, because she wanted, I don't know precisely what her motivation was, but I think she wanted to sort of show, see, we can all have these characters and they all be us, or we identify with them, but we don't have to worry specifically about ownership of these characters that aren't ours. And somebody mentioned the Joker, and I have a Joker act, but my Joker is not Jack Nicholson, is not Heath Ledger. It's not meant to be those. It's meant to be Victor as the Joker. And somebody mentioned like, oh, Mary Sin, and Mary Sin has a great Joker act. It's the Heath Ledger style, but it's also her spin on it. And Nina Lavoie has a great Joker act, but it's like this psychedelic circus thing. And I'm like, yeah, see, you can take all of them and make it really interesting. And then someone, however, will look at one of them and say, oh, well, that's not the Joker that I know. Or that's not the character. I'm like, well, yeah, but how many Jokers have there fucking been? A lot.
But it's like, also, I think what I like about what you're saying, and also, I like seeing different presentations of a character.
Yeah.
I was like, are we really going to pretend like comic books don't have 90 different versions of a character? Like, alternate universe? Like, I've not read all the X-Men comics, but I know that Marvel does like alternate universes all the time.
All the time. I mean, for example, I know that Emma Frost now has a situation where she turns into Diamond, but the Emma Frost that I know from the Dark Phoenix saga, that wasn't her jam. That's okay.
That wasn't her jam.
No.
You know?
That was a different thing.
It's a different thing. Like, I mean, I understand why nerds are so protective of things, and sometimes it's just like, you gotta cool personal. It down.
Yeah, it gets
super...
It's like,
cool it down a little bit. Like, you know. But I mean, I love nerdlesque as well. I've also had a lot of great experiences with nerdlesque. They outweigh any negative experiences I had. Let me go knock on wood.
Well, of course. I mean, it's more fun to talk smack. But good. I'm glad that you've had.
But like, yeah, I've had people like, I think one of my favorite compliments on a nerdlesque act that I've done was my Melina act. And this guy came up to me and he was like, I don't know if I'm aroused or terrified. And I was like, my vision is complete.
And scene.
I was like, I'm done. I was like, that is the compliment of the day. Cause he's like, I felt a way, like I could tell he was struggling with it. I was like, it's okay. I was like, I'm not gonna like rip your heart out. He's like, no. He's like, I love Melina and I love that she's like a literal man eater. And I was like, okay.
He's like, no, that wasn't the problem. That wasn't my my end all of it. It's all right. That's not a deal breaker.
And he was just like, I really love her. I mean, men have had really interesting responses to the characters that I picked. I tend to pick the oversexed female characters.
Like who? Who were some of your favorites?
Melina comes to mind because, she's very hypersexualized in Mortal Kombat. Emma Frost, Morrigan from Darkstalkers.
Oh, do you have the wings and everything?
I do have wings.
Nice.
There's an interesting story about the wings if you want to get into it.
Yes, sure.
So the wings, for people at home, Morgan is a succubus, and she has these amazing bat wings. And I decided early on, I was like, I'm going to make the bat wings. And remember earlier, I said I don't do instructions very well. So I saw a picture of some cosplayer who was like, these are the wings, and this is how I made them. I think I glanced at the tutorial for like 5 seconds, if we're being honest. And I was like, I could do that. I can make some wings. Like, it can't be that hard. 2 days later, I have a vodka mule in hand. I'm crying. I'm like, I don't know why I thought I could do this. I don't know why. So I made these 6 feet bat wings.
Yeah.
They're my height across, basically. And they're attached to a harness, and they do not collapse. They don't collapse. So the first time I performed this act, I was backstage, and I think I knocked things over, because every time I would turn around, the wings would just go. Like, I had to learn how to strip out of the costume with the wings on, because they just could not come off. And I was like, this is what you get for not researching. But I've modified them since. But that first experiment, I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. But but they were beautiful.
Do you make a lot of your stuff?
At this point in my career, I make almost everything.
Nice. Is that because you have a specific vision in mind and you don't want to like do finding aspects of it, or is it just satisfying for you?
It's a bit of both. Also, I'm very tall, and people don't make. I'm 6'2".
Oh, okay.
6'2" without heels.
Right.
So, yeah, clearance is a big deal for me. So a lot of costume pieces, even if I were to get them off the rack, they have to be modified because of my height. Panel skirts were really tricky out the gate, because normally when you make a panel skirt, you don't need a lot of fabric except for when you want to do the circle part. But if you're tall, you have to extend the length of the panel skirt, because I have really long legs.
Yeah.
So panel skirts were tricky the first time because I couldn't figure out how much fabric I needed. But eventually, I started just making all of my stuff because I would have a set idea of how I wanted the costume to come off. And I'm a bit of a control freak where I don't really trust other people to do it for me.
Okay.
And that's something I kind of want to work on, because I've seen people do amazing work. And I'm like, you could have that too if you just stop being such a control freak. But no, I do like making my own costumes. It's an enjoying experience for me. Enjoyable experience for me. Primarily because I like sketching things out and then seeing it come to life. So,
right, you get the full experience of thinking about it, planning it, doing it, and then showcasing it.
Oh yeah, that's the best part. When you make your own costume, like, I advise everyone to at least make one costume piece. It's really satisfying, because like people come up to you, oh, I like your I made it. Like, you're very proud. I made it. Like, so I do like making my costumes, and I rhinestone them as well. I made my Christine costume too, which was a little bit of a hard thing at first. From the movie Christine.
Oh,
The car.
The car. Yeah. Okay.
Face right now, and there was like this public face, Christine. I was like, yeah, like the 57 Plymouth.
Obviously.
I was like, come on, Victor.
I'm sorry. I was so behind. I, for some reason, went Phantom of the Opera. I don't know why. But
Oh, no. I unfortunately am not that type of nerd. No, Christine from the movie. It was for What the Fuck Lesque, which is a great show. And
missed it a lot.
it's a lot.
No, I miss it a lot. It is a lot, but I also miss it a lot.
Yes. I was like, I want to be the car.
I mean, fair. Oh, this was for the Stephen King night, right?
Yes. And I have an annoying tendency to pick inanimate objects that I'm going to do acts for because I'm like, ooh, this is great. So, I made a Christine dress with the license plate and everything.
Terrific.
It has the little Plymouth decal on it. And I was also Laura Palmer's diary.
You were the physical diary?
I was the physical diary.
How did you manage that?
This is one of my proud accomplishments, my crowning achievements in burlesque, because like a year and a half later, I was at an art show and this guy, like a skater dude with long, stringy blonde hair, he comes up to me. He's like, I know you. And I'm like, I've never met you. Who are you? Like, this is weird. And he's like, no, I've seen you before. And I was like, I've never seen this guy. Like, I was like, what? And like, I'm really confused. He's like, you were that book. I was like, what book are you talking about? And he's like, the book. And I was like, I'm looking at my friend Jacob and I'm like, what is he talking about? And he's like, like that Twin Peaks thing. And I was like, oh, you mean the David Lynch show? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea what this dude was talking about. I was Laura Palmer's diary. And I have the act, and I made, again with the harnesses, I'm attached to the actual book. And the costume is literally pages. I stripped the pages off.
Ooh.
And I copied onto the costume the actual text from the diary.
You are a completionist.
I am very much a completionist. It's one of my crowning achievements. I love that act. It's so weird. I like when people like. I like when people like my weird acts because they don't get booked as often. They're usually very specific, and I'm pretty sure you had that experience. That there were some acts that you really love.
Yeah,
and you're like, I wish this would get booked more.
What song do you do for the diary?
The first time I performed it, I used Poe, Controlled, and Haunted, I think. And then I was like, I don't feel like this is exactly the best fit. And then I changed it to Miranda's Sex Garden's Tonight. Ooh. Which, if you've never heard, is this really sexy song.
I'll check it out.
It's a very sexy song. And I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, have you ever had that experience? You're listening to a song, you're like, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah. It's very convenient and very helpful, and then you realize you got to do everything to make it work.
Yes.
I know you have to run, and I don't want to keep you much longer. Well, I miss you, and I'm so glad that I've gotten to know you over the last year. We've done only a couple shows together, but they were blasts, and you were a lot of fun to hang out in the dressing room waiting for something to happen.
Thank you. Did you get all the questions? Because I know I went off on a tangent a couple times.
Oh, I love that you actually think I have some sort of prepared question list, but no, we just talk. We just talk.
Oh, okay. I was like, because I was like, oh no, did I go off on a tangent? I'm very much a Gemini that way.
I appreciate that. Now I'm a Virgo, so I guess going off or just letting it go is also uncharacteristic, but yeah. I've done like 100 of these. I know the general gist of how it goes.
Well, Gemini and Virgo is ruled by the same planet, so.
Oh, well, maybe that's why we get along so well. And I know that Virgo and Capricorn get along, so that might also Gemini and Capricorn might be cool, and that might be why you like my husband.
Your husband's so sweet.
I know.
Also, I like getting gossip from him. So
he is. He's a sneak attack. Because he will observe and observe. He's very quiet and usually with a lot of loud burlesquers. And then he will come out with a bum out. And I'm really like, oh, okay.
No, No, he's the best person to get gossip from. I'm like, oh, I need to talk to you. So thank you for having me, Victor. This was so much fun.
Thank you. It's lovely getting to see you and chat with you. I hope that all is well and everything else that goes on until the next time.
And on your end too.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised not to see you with makeup.
Oh yeah, this is what I look like. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little, yeah. I'm still really, really pale. You see how I'm still really, really white. But yeah.
Don't go outside. It's hot. Don't do that.
No, I know. And the hair is floppy and driving me crazy. And I'm a little this more than I was when you last saw me. But
last time I saw you, you were in a toga.
Yeah. Good times. Good times. All right. Good times. I will talk to you soon, and be safe out there, okay?
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
PonyPod, a traveling performers podcast. If you like hearing from traveling performers, please subscribe and leave 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Miss Mary Jane Green, the Trouser Tent Teaser. You can find me on the main social media platforms or by joining my mailing list at missmaryjanegreen.com. In the immortal words of Jack Kerouac, nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as is ever so on the road.
Burlesque Burlesco Stories, available Wednesdays all throughout September and October 2020. Find it on the We Burlesque main feed of your platform of choice. Enjoy!